That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Don't Look Up, the 8th film directed by Adam McKay, which Netflix is releasing Christmas Eve 2021 with a star-studded cast. Not to be confused with Fruit Chan's 2009 film of the same title starring Eli Roth.
Oh. What is that movie, a horror film?
Yeah.
Oh.
You've seen it actually.
Oh, I have?
Yeah.
What is it about?
I don't remember, but we saw it back in that year it came out.
Oh. Adam McKay?
Yes.
Name some films I've seen.
Anchorman, both of them. Talladega Nights.
I like that one.
Step Brothers.
With John C. Reilly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is Cher in that one? No, Cher's in the one with Matt Damon.
That's Stuck on You, that's the Farrelly Brothers.
Okay.
The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell, which you have seen. There's a funny bit with Eva Mendes, I like in that. Then he kind of made a switch into funny, politically minded films with The Big Short and then Vice, the Dick Cheney film.
Okay. So, star-studded cast, Leonardo DiCaprio, Meryl Streep, Jennifer Lawrence, Tyler Perry, Cate Blanchett, Ariana Grande, Chris Evans. Who else? Kid Cudi. That's good enough.
Jonah Hill.
Oh, Jonah Hill's in
Mark Rylance, Rob Morgan, Timothée Chalamet.
That's right, Timothée's in it. Okay. The basic story.
Melanie Linsky. Sorry, go ahead.
Jennifer Lawrence plays a PhD student at the University of Michigan. She's studying astronomy, and one day she discovers a meteor with like a direct path to Earth. So she does her little calculations and discovers that this meteor, which is huge, like 5 to 10 kilometers wide, is going to strike Earth in about 6 months, and it will be an extinction level event. So she tells her professor, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, he confirms her calculations, and he contacts NASA. The head of NASA takes the call, reviews the information he has sent, and confirms it. So they transfer him to the head of the Planetary Defense Agency, played by
Rob Morgan.
Rob Morgan. So now we have Rob Morgan, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Jennifer Lawrence. These three scientists are headed to the White House to tell the president. The president is played by Meryl Streep, and she's doing like a Donald Trump.
Sarah Palin styled, yeah.
Her chief of staff is also her son, played by Jonah Hill. Mm-hmm. So these three go and tell her what's up, and she downplays it. Like, let's just wait and see what happens. The midterms are coming. This could be really bad for like the polls. So, of course, the three scientists are like baffled. So they decide they're going to just go on this media tour to tell the nation and the world what's happening. So Leo and Jennifer go, and it does not go well because Leo has issues with like anxiety, and so he's frozen on screen, and Jennifer Lawrence just goes off and says we're all going to fucking die. So then she becomes a meme. Mm-hmm. So no one's taking her seriously. The White House is not acknowledging it, which is supported by these two losers on TV trying to explain this crazy thing that's happening. However, Meryl Streep, the president, gets caught up in a scandal because her Supreme Court justice nominee is like super problematic. And then she, like, all this stuff comes out about him, and then she ends up sending, like, we find out that the president sent this Supreme Court justice nominee, like, a picture of her vagina. He still gets appointed, but to downplay that scandal, she decides to take the meteor seriously. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's decided that a spaceship is going to be flown up into the sky, and like a nuclear weapon will be sent to the meteor to tear it apart. And the astronaut flying it is played by Ron Perlman, who's also super problematic. Mm-hmm. When it's time to do it, the mission is terminated suddenly, and we don't know why. And this is at the hour mark, mm-hmm. which I thought was a good time to stop this movie, but it keeps going for another 90 minutes. So the next hour and a half is the reason the mission was aborted is because there is like a Steve Jobs type character played by
Mark Rylance, Peter Isherwell,
who runs this company called Bash, which is like this cell phone company that's like as big as Apple. And he's in cahoots with the president because he's like the third richest person ever and her number one donor. and he tells her to abort the mission because there is $100 trillion worth of like minerals and ore on this meteor. So they'll be super rich, and it also contains a lot of components that make cell phones.
Yes.
So he's very interested in that. So of course, the White House has to spin it to the nation and the world. So she gets on TV and says, this will create a lot of jobs for everyone. This meteor careening towards Earth will create a lot of jobs. So then it becomes like a parody kind of Donald the Trump administration to like commentary on like how we're handling COVID, because we get split up into two groups: the people who are saying look up, and then the people who believe in the meteor, and then the ones who don't, and they're saying don't look up.
The impact deniers, I believe, is they're referred to as well. Mm-hmm. Well, because this Isherwood character, the Peter Isherwell character, has developed technology to have these robots land on this comet.
This meteor, and split it apart, and then it'll like fall into the Pacific Ocean.
Something like that, yes.
But to wrap up the story, the plan that Bash has to do what you just said fails. So they are not able to break apart the meteor. The meteor strikes Earth. It's an extinction level event. The end. There are some after credit scenes.
There are two after credit scenes. One, you know, in the usual kind of place and then one at the very end of all the credits.
So the first one is, of course, all the like the Steve Jobs guy and the president, and like they say that this spaceship can hold 2,000 people, and it's programmed to visit this planet on another galaxy that can support human life. So we see them get there, and then immediately Meryl Streep's character gets out of the ship and is eaten by like a dinosaur-looking thing. Then,
which is a good scene.
Then the second one is Meryl Streep leaves Jonah Hill, her son, behind on Earth on accident because she doesn't care about his ass, and he ends up being the last man on Earth because he survives this meteor. Okay. Where to begin?
Why don't we go through your notes first?
Well, my first five notes are commenting on people's hair.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's disturbing how creepy white veneers look like.
Well, those are my next two notes. So my first 7 notes are about teeth and hair. So Jennifer Lawrence is rocking like an auburn-colored mullet.
They keep making dragon tattoo jokes.
She's a scientist, but she's supposed to seem kind of edgy.
Yeah, she's singing Wu-Tang Clan at the beginning, isn't she?
Yeah, I thought that was off. I think her performance is fine. Like, she's fine.
She's okay. Out of all of the principal cast members, I think that she fares the best characterization.
But her hair's a nightmare. Then Meryl Streep's hair, oh my God, that wig is like, I don't know what she's trying to do, and I think Meryl Streep does a good job with the words she was given and her portrayal of it, but the styling was way off because I think her hair reminds me of like Texas bimbo, like some girl who works at a Hooters in Texas, like just overly curled, like she's not pulling the curls out, it's too highlighted and chunks, but then it doesn't match her style.
I think well, with the glasses, I kept thinking of Sarah Palin.
Sure.
Well, and the dumb thing she
said. That
said.
hair's terrible. Then Rob Morgan's character, the head of the Planetary Defense Agency, he has an afro wig on that's just as bad as the one Tyler Perry put that man in that one movie. What's that movie called? The one with Felicia Rashad?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's just as bad. Like, it's distractingly bad. Then Ariana Grande, you know, she's known for having that ponytail, but then in this film they
kind of give her several all over her head.
Yeah, they give her like tentacles and like loops. I thought she looked crazy. Timothée, he's supposed to be like
he looked like a backwoods.
I thought he looked like a drowned, harassed rat.
Otter creature, yeah.
The cell phone guy.
I thought Mark Rylance was very creepy.
He was, because his character, it seems like they're trying to make him like he's on the spectrum, because when we first meet him, the audience in the auditorium he's speaking in is told to not make direct eye contact, don't make any sudden moves, no flash photography.
A little bit, they have children up on the stage with this presentation, and this girl asks, "Can I say something?" He goes, "No."
No. And he like doesn't make eye contact. He doesn't seem to understand people's intentions. So I mean, it seems like he's on the spectrum, but he has veneers on, and those look outrageous.
As do Cate Blanchett's.
Cate Blanchett. It looks like she's wearing tape to snatch her face back, and then she's wearing veneers on the top and the bottom. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of those veneers they sell on Instagram for like $100. Like you give them the mold and they send you like Halloween teeth. That's what her shit looked like. My next note is Leo. I guess I haven't seen Leonardo DiCaprio in any recent movies because I didn't watch that one with him and Brad Pitt.
Oh, you didn't see it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah, so it's been a while. I think The Revenant is the last, or Inception, whichever one came first or last.
Inception was 2010 and Revenant was 2015.
Okay, so last time I saw him was 2015.
God.
I don't know. But it was kind of interesting to see him. He's aged okay.
I think he's fine, and he does a fine enough job in this. I think the main problem, it's supposed to be a satire of our current climate, but instead it feels like a social issue comedy, which what I mean by is it's not as smart as it needs to be.
Okay, the way I felt about The House of Gucci is how I feel about this movie. I like this one a little bit better, but I don't know what it's trying to do because it's not smart enough to be satire. It's too silly to have impact.
Yeah.
There's like a love...
At least deep impact.
Deep impact. There's not enough... Like, there's a love story in it, like, between Leonardo DiCaprio and Cate Blanchett and Jennifer Lawrence and Timothée, and I feel like that is very superficial.
But it also is the kind of love story that these are scientists that say, fuck it, it's the end of the world.
But then...
Why not?
Okay, so then with Leo having enough... Because Leo's married and has, like, 2 children.
Yeah. He's married to Melanie Linsky, yeah.
And... he's having an affair with Cate Blanchett's character, and then the wife confronts them in a hotel and like basically says we're done. But then when the end of the world is imminent, like they know they're gonna die that night, he goes back to his family and they share one last final dinner, which should have been an emotional scene. But I was just like, this shit, I've sat here for 135 minutes and just of silliness. But I just couldn't feel anything.
It almost gets there. It does have some moments that work. And then there's a running theme. Paul Guilfoyle plays this general in the beginning. They make the scientists wait 7 hours to talk to Meryl Streep's president in the beginning. And they don't even get to see her that day. But he has this gag where he gets them snacks and water because they've been waiting so long. He's like, oh, they charged me an arm and a leg. And he asked for money from these scientists. And later Jennifer Lawrence discovers that all these snacks are free and it bothers her throughout that's kind of the only recurring comedic theme that really worked.
There are no jokes in this movie. I think the only joke is what you said, is Jennifer Lawrence's character, like throughout the film, going on about how they paid for these free snacks. So then, yeah, it's not a comedy.
But there are things that are just incongruous about it. Like when Jennifer Lawrence has been kind of shamed and drummed out of the orbit of Leonardo DiCaprio, who's offered a position on Meryl Streep's staff. She goes to take a job at this Bevmo knockoff. Like, they're just... I don't know.
The final thing about what I don't think I understand what this movie is trying to be is also, the fourth type of movie is trying to be is a disaster film. Mm-hmm. And if it were just like, if we just take out the components that are about disaster, I feel like this is just as stupid as like a San Andreas or a 2012, because none of the science makes sense as far as like how everyone's reacting to it. And the biggest thing that bothers me is each of the 3 scientists, Rob Morgan, Leo, and Jennifer, they have been like given like classified information from like the White House, right? Mm-hmm. But then because they aren't being listened to, they go on this media tour. So then they each get hemmed up by the FBI, and they're basically told like, if you don't shut the hell up, you're gonna go to jail. But if you promise not to keep talking, we'll let you out. That just seems so wild to me. This is a matter of global security, mm-hmm. and they're just like free to roam around and tell everyone that the world's gonna end. I thought that was so, I don't know if it's just, I think it's lazy or stupid.
Well, I think the problem with trying to do intelligent satire post-Trump is really getting into the ridiculousness of that administration and how all standards were out the window.
I was very unsatisfied because I think, like you had said earlier today, it's not enough to just mirror.
You can't just hold up a mirror to society or, the people that are acting foolishly and expect them to say like, oh, this I look dumb. Like this needs something much more biting. Like a lot of cinema out of Hollywood in the 1970s that was a scathing critique of the world in which we lived. I mean, the pinnacle of something like that is Network, which I know you referenced several times while we talked about this. And there are two scenes where Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio are kind of go off the rails. And I think Leo gets a greater scene, but it's kind of the impact is lessened because Jennifer Lawrence does it earlier, and I think they're making gender statements in there as well. But it should have that impact of a Peter Finch screaming, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore," and it just doesn't.
To be clear, you're referring to Jennifer Lawrence early on says, "We're all going to fucking die," and that's why she becomes a joke of the science and nation, whatever. And then Leo does it again towards the end, and yeah, it just...
This could have been they could have done a reverse Chicken Little theme. I think that would have worked really well. I think all of the sequences with Meryl Streep's president should have felt more. This should be at the level, based on the world we're living in and what we need to see. This should have been at the level of a Doctor Strangelove.
Or, I mean, it's not... I know you haven't seen this film, but I don't even think it's like as good as like Idiocracy.
I have not seen
Which I know people love that movie, and I did think it was amusing, but I feel like it either needs to be that ridiculous, but it's doing too much, because then you not only do you have commentary on politics, but like the media, but then that seems very... So the political component is not smart enough. And then the sort of commentary on media simply revolves around Tyler Perry and Cate Blanchett playing like a Kelly and Ryan type scenario.
And I wanted that to be stronger because I think that's such an interesting and odd combination to have Blanchett and Tyler Perry together. I wanted that to feel so much stronger than it did. And of course, you know, Meryl Streep is a great actress, but I think somebody else would have... I know you brought up Sigourney Weaver, but I have to agree. I think somebody else could have filled those shoes a little more easily.
Or Meryl just needed to be styled differently.
Styled it well, and as I've already said, this needed to be a much more intelligent screenplay. Because it's just so on the nose, like it just doesn't... The laughs don't land because it's like, well, this isn't funny anymore. This is...
Tyler Perry's also wearing a hairpiece, and it looks really good.
Oh, especially compared to what they do to Rob Morgan, yeah.
Well, or what he does in his own movies to other black men, so he needs to be ashamed. But
because there are several scenes with Rob Morgan in like a long shot, and I'm like, what's that on his head? Oh, that's his hairline.
It looks like a tattered sweater that has been cut in the shape of a skull and then put on his head.
I mean, even how his character is introduced is because his name is Dr. Clayton Oglethorpe, but his nickname is Teddy, and Paul Guilfoyle said he's called that because he's not a teddy bear.
But he's super nice, and I feel like even that characterization, he is the head of this like federal agency, and he just seems kind of like, he's not incompetent, but it's just these characters aren't strong enough.
And what Adam McKay does is, because you haven't seen The Big Short, and which I think is more entertaining because there's all these celebrities making cameos, defining these political terminologies in like sexy or fun ways, and that seemed, I think, unique at the time. But he does that sparingly here, such as the Department of Planetary Defense, that you get a note like this is a real agency, or we get all of a montage of memes made of Jennifer Lawrence, which actually are kind of a fun visual gag. But it just seems like Adam McKay is doing the same old tricks of his past, I guess now, trilogy of politically...
I know there's talk about Ariana Grande getting like Oscar buzz. I don't know what that's for, except she sings a song, and I don't care for her, so to me it doesn't seem Oscar worthy. But I mean, if that's what they're talking about, I guess it's the song.
It would have to be.
I mean, it wasn't remarkable to me, except that it's Ariana Grande singing, and people... I mean, she's a big deal. I did think the editing of the film is good. Because there are a lot of abrupt stops, like when someone's about to shout and they get cut off. The film looks expensive.
It does. The score is composed by Nicholas Bertel, who did Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk, which are two very different kind of films. But
okay, I only know Timothée from that movie, that Woody Allen movie I didn't care for.
Rainy Day in New York.
That's all I've seen him in, I think.
That's terrible. Oh, the Tyler Perry film you were thinking of is A Fall from Grace, right?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, the only film I know Timothée from is the movie I didn't like. But I thought he was okay in this.
You need to watch Dune, but...
But his character is supposed to be like whatever you described him as, but he's also like evangelical. So I thought it's kind of corny but funny to me. And when he first, because like the end of the world that night, and he's taken with Leo DiCaprio to his family home to have their final dinner. And when Timothée walks in, he says his name and then he's like, oh, I'm so-and-so on Twitch. Like, I thought that was cute. I thought he was cute. That's all I have to say. I think for streaming on Netflix, I would give it a watch because it does feel expensive. There are a lot of cool people in it. It's humorous, but I promise you, when Ron Perlman shoots up into the sky to shoot the meteor and he aborts the mission, I thought that was the end of the movie. And when I saw that we were only 53 minutes in, it was not a good place for me to be in. And then, so the movie just felt like a long, I don't know, just like a long gag.
It did. A lot of the laughs don't land, or just you're waiting for a punchline, basically, that never comes.
What would you give this film?
2.5.
I would give it 2.5 out of 5 as well. Anything else?
No.
Bye.